Hi everyone, welcome to channel Qtomation. In today's session we will see about XPATH. So far we have seen standard locators like ID, name, link text, partial link text, class name, tag name in previous session. Also we have seen CSS selectors, which includes combination of tag and ID, tag and class, tag and attribute, tag, class and any other attribute. So we have seen CSS selectors as well, which are customized locators. Today's session we will see about XPATH. They are also customized locators and very important locators in Selenium. XPATH, so we will see what is XPATH, what are the different types of XPATH. So absolute XPATH and relative XPATH, these are the two main types of XPATH. So we will see details in coming sessions. In today's session we will see what exactly is XPATH, what is absolute XPATH, what is relative XPATH. So it is very important topic and XPATH is very important locator in Selenium. So what exactly is XPATH? The full form of XPATH is XML path. XML path means XPATH. It is used for navigation through the HTML structure of the page. XPATH is used for navigation through HTML structure of the page. It is a syntax or language. XPath is a syntax or language for finding any element on a web page using XML path expression. So when we write the XPath, it is kind of an expression which we write, which will help us to finding any element on a web page using that XML path expression. So it is a syntax or a language. XPath can be used for both HTML and XML documents to find the location of any element on a web page using HTML DOM structure. So we will see in short what is HTML DOM structure. So what exactly is HTML DOM? So HTML DOM, it is an API interface provided by browser. So when web page is loaded, browser creates document object model of page. So DOM means document object model of a page. It is a view of same HTML file. So let's say we have written one HTML file. So any web page we see, it is written in HTML view, right? So this is the HTML view where there are different type of HTML tags are there. For example, HTML, head, body and content in body. That is under HTML tags. For example, button, drop downs, checkbox. So all those web elements are written by using HTML code, and that is the HTML view of the page. Every tag in HTML, so basically this is a HTML view of the page. So when that page gets loaded, so whenever the web page gets loaded, that HTML view is converted to DOM view, that is document object model view. It is converted to DOM view by browser. So whenever the web page is loaded, browser creates the DOM view, document object model view of that HTML page. And on front end, for user, it will be displayed like this. So if you see the rendered view, there is a click me button, there is an input field, right? So, and there is a text content. So this is the UI, actual UI which user will see. But behind that, we have written the HTML code, and whenever that page gets loaded, it is converted to DOM view, it is converted to document object model of the page by browser by using API interface. So DOM is a API interface provided by browser. So if you see in HTML, there are multiple tags. Every tag from HTML document will be converted to one node in DOM. So if you see the DOM view, HTML tag is now a root node, that is a HTML node. So every tag in HTML is converted to node. So if you see the structure, it is like a node structure where HTML is a root node in which there is a head node, there is a body node, and inside head there will be some content, inside body there would be some nodes. For example, inside this body there is button node, input node, paragraph node. Inside that there is ID, there is multiple attributes are present. So our XPath basically works on DOM view. XPath we cannot use directly on HTML view. So with XPath expression, we can access element from DOM structure. So by using XPATH expression, we can navigate through these nodes and we can find that specific web element. For example, if I want to find out this paragraph view, right? So what is the ID? So P1 is the ID for this paragraph. So this is the paragraph content. So by using XPATH expression, we can navigate through node by node and we can find out any web element present on that HTML page by using DOM view. So with XPATH expression, so our XPATH mainly works here. It does not directly work on HTML content. XPATH always works on DOM view. So that's about the document object model view of a page, and our XPath works on this. So in Selenium automation, if the elements are not found by the general locators like ID, class, name, then XPath is used to find element on the web page. So we have seen the standard locators like ID, class and names. But sometimes for complex pages, these standard locators might not be present. In such situation, we have to use XPath. So XPath will definitely give you the web element. That's why XPath is very important locator in Selenium. XPath, if you want to summarize it, XPath is like a address of web element. So on web page, whatever web elements are present, all those web elements we can find out by using XPath. It is like a address of that web element. So that's about the XPath introduction. So XPath is basically XML path used for navigation through HTML structure of the page. It is a syntax or language, or we can write the expression for XPath to find any element on web page using XML path expression. So we will see exactly what that expression and how to write that expression or how to find the XPath, that we will see in some time. So XPath can be used for both HTML and XML documents to find the location of any element on a web page using HTML DOM structure. So we have already seen DOM structure. So DOM structure is an API interface provided by browser. So whenever the web page is loaded, browser creates the DOM view of that HTML document. So this is the HTML view of the web page, whereas browser converts that view into DOM view, where every tag in HTML represents by node in DOM view. So it is like a tree structure, where HTML is a root node and there can be multiple nodes for that DOM view. And our XPath mainly works here. XPath does not work directly on HTML view, it works on DOM view. What are the types of XPath? So mainly there are two types of XPath. First type is absolute XPath, or we can say it as a full XPath, and next is a relative XPath. Now we will see one example. So let's say one example. So I will just open the website and let's try to see how a relative XPath and how the absolute XPath looks. So I am now on this web page. So this is the sample website which we have used in previous session as well. So now let's say I want to find out XPath for this username field. I want to find out XPath for this username field. First, let's see how to find XPath directly by using inspect tools of Chrome browser. So I will just right click on it and let's click on inspect element. So now let's see what is absolute XPath and how the relative XPath looks. So we have to find XPath for this username field. So I will just click on this and let's observe the username field. Let's take the cursor on username field. After taking cursor on username field, you can right click, just right click on it. Just take the username field. This part is highlighted. On this, just right click on it. If you see the option copy here, after copy, you can see copy XPath and copy full XPath. So copy full XPath is our absolute XPath. Copy XPath is our relative XPath. So first let's copy full XPath. So I am just copying it full XPath and I will just post it here. So we are first seeing absolute XPath for this username field. I am just pasting it. So this is how the absolute XPath looks. If you see, the starting point is first there is a forward slash, after that HTML, which is a root node. So this is the absolute XPath. HTML tag is a root node. So it will travel from the root node up to that specific element. Now let's understand how it works. So this is the element username. After in this, if you see, I will just, if you see this code, so this is the HTML code. First node is always a root node. For absolute XPath, it always starts with root node, that is HTML node here. So if you see, first node is a HTML node. Forward slash, after that HTML. Now after that there is a body. That means our element, that is username, this element is present under this HTML node and then body node. So in HTML, if you see, there is head, body and this Grammarly, this tag, right? So these are the three nodes here. So in which node we have to go? So we have to reach to body node. So I am just expanding this body, right? Inside this body, now let's see what is the next node. So next one is div, div node. So now in this body, this is the body which we have expanded. In this, if you see, there are this div node is there, div tag is there, after that script is there, right? Div and script tags are there inside this body. But in which we have to go? So we have seen the XPath here. So it is inside div. So inside this div, again there is another div. So inside this div, if you see, inside this div ID, there is another div ID. So we have to go inside that div ID as well. So far we have reached here, right? So we have gone to the body, first div, then second div, and then if you see, this is div and after that 2 is added in square bracket. So if you see, we are inside this div. In this div, so in this div tag there are two more div tags, first one and second one. So but in which div node we have to go? So it is mentioned here, right? So if it is 1, then we have to go to first div node. If it is 2, that means our element is present inside the second div node. So this is the first one and this is the second one. So inside second we have to go. So I will just expand this second one as well. After inside this second div tag, what is the next step? So inside now this second div tag, there is one more div tag. And what is the index for that? There it is present on first position. So first div we have to take. So if you see this div tag, in this div tag again there are 1 and 2 div tag. From this we have to take the first one. So we have gone to the first one. Now inside this first div tag, what is there? What is the next step? Again there are one div. So there is one div and in that again there is one div. So let's navigate to that. So this is the first div. Inside that there is one more div. So again inside this div. After that, inside this div there is a form tag. If you see our XPath expression for absolute, then after these two divs there is form tag. So is there form tag? Yes. So there is form tag as well. So inside this form tag again there will be first div. So there would be inside this form tag, if you see, there is first and second, two divs are there, out of which we have to take the first one because it is showing div of first. And after that, so I am just taking the div first. Inside this there is input, right? So if you see the XPath, inside this div, first div, there is input tag. There we will find our username field, right? There we will find our username input. So if you go here, you have already reached to our, if you see, if you take the cursor on it, it is already highlighting that username field. That means we have reached here by navigating through each node starting from HTML via XPath expression. That is the absolute XPath or full XPath. So we have started absolute XPath always starts with first node, root node, that is HTML node, and we have navigated from HTML, then body, then first div, then inside that another div, inside that two divs are there, so out of which we have to reach second div. Inside that again multiple divs are there, out of from which we have to go to first div. In that again one div, in that again one div. After that inside that form tag is there. After that again multiple divs are there, but out of which we have selected first div, and inside that our targeted element is present, that is input tag. So this is the basically XPath expression. This is the absolute XPath expression for this username field, right? We have to just right click on it and we have to copy full XPath that gives the absolute XPath for this username field. So this is how we can use absolute XPath, or we can find this absolute XPath. So this is the absolute XPath. Now we will see for same element how the relative XPath looks. So we have seen absolute XPath for the username field. Now we will see relative XPath. We will see relative XPath for this username field. Now absolute XPath looks like this for this username field or username element. Now let's see. So I am just right clicking on it. Let's copy. This time you have to copy XPath. So XPath means relative XPath. Full XPath means absolute XPath. So I am just copying now XPath. And let's paste it here. So this is how relative XPath is. Looks totally different, right? So this is absolute XPath, which is basically starting from / then root node, that is HTML node, and after that it is navigating through each node to reach to that targeted element. So this is absolute XPath expression. If you see the relative XPath, it starts with 2 / after that star. We will see in detail about this relative XPath and how to write this relative XPath, what is the syntax for relative XPath in coming sessions, but just understand on high level now. It is mentioning @ and there is a attribute, and this is the value for that attribute. So this is the relative XPath. In relative XPath we can use attributes. It is not starting from our starting node. It is not starting from the root node. It is giving the relative position. It is saying that in our document the element which is present with the ID of this value, that is user-name, then it will return that. So this one will return also the username field. It is giving the relative position, that is find the element of ID having the ID attribute with the value of user-name. So this is how the relative XPath looks. It starts with /, there is a star, in square bracket we have mentioned attribute and value. So this is the relative XPath. It is not starting from our starting node. So both these elements, so this is absolute XPath and this is relative XPath. So both are for this username field only. So if you use any of this, it will work. If you use in our automation script, if you use absolute XPath or if you use the relative XPath, so both value will give you this username field only. Now let's see some points about absolute XPath and relative XPath. So absolute XPath is a type of XPath expression that provides the complete path to an element in XML or HTML document, starting from the root node and ending with the target element. So we have seen the example, right? So for username field, it is starting from the root node and ending with our targeted node. It is giving the full expression. It is giving the entire expression that provides the complete path to an element in XML or HTML document, starting from the root node, that is HTML node, and ending with the target element. It uses a / to separate the different levels or nodes in the path. So it is using this / between every node. So when we navigate, it is using /. It always starts with a single / to indicate the root node of the document. It always starts with single /. It provides the complete path to the element and does not depend on current location or context of the element on the document. It is not depending on any current position or any relative position of any other element to provide the XPath. It is basically starting from root node. It provides complete path and it does not depend on current context or location of the element of the document in the document. Because of this, absolute XPath expression tend to be longer and more specific than relative XPath expression. If you see, absolute XPath is obviously longer because it traverses from root node up to the targeted element. So if the page is complex and there are multiple tags are there, then it would be a longer, right? If you see here also, absolute XPath is longer than relative XPath. So where it can be useful in cases where the structure of the document is known and static. So whenever the structure of the document is known and static, and where the target element is in fixed location, in that situation absolute XPath can be used. But if it's a dynamic or changing elements, in that situation absolute XPath will not be convenient. If the structure of the document changes or the location of the element is not fixed, the absolute XPath expression may be needed to updated. Absolute XPath expression can also be less efficient than relative XPath expression, as they require the entire document to be searched to find the target element. So if you find out the target element by using absolute XPath, it will again travel from root node up to that targeted element. So it would be longer and it would be not that much convenient, and it would be a less efficient. So in summary, absolute XPath expression provides a complete and specific path to an element in a document, but may not be the most flexible or efficient way to locate elements or in dynamic or changing document. So in dynamic or changing document, we have to use, it would be better to use relative XPath than absolute XPath. So these are the points about absolute XPath. Now let's see comparing to relative XPath. So relative XPath is a type of a XPath expression that provides the path to an element in a XML or HTML document relative to the current context or location. It uses the combination of the forward slash and double forward slash to navigate through the document. So if you see this example, it starts with double slashes, forward slashes, and if there is inside this location, inside this context, if there is another element, it can be, we can use another forward slashes and it will go inside that and it will find that specific element with the context or with the relation with this element. So it does not start with a forward slash, as it does not reference to the root node of the document. Absolute XPath or the relative XPath does not start with HTML, or that is root node. It is not starting with the starting point, that is the root node. It is not starting with forward slash, single forward slash, as it does not reference to the root node of the document. Instead, it uses the current context or location as the starting point for the path. Relative XPath expression tend to be shorter and more general than absolute XPath expressions, as they do not provide complete path to the element. Relative XPath expression can be useful in cases where structure of the document is dynamic or changing, and where the location of the target may vary. By using relative XPath, the location of the element can be specified based on its relationship to other elements in the document rather than its fixed position. So we can use relative XPath with the context of some another position of the element. So we can find like that. So it is not starting with the root node. Relative XPath expression can be more efficient than absolute XPath expression, as they only search for a specific subset of the document to find the targeted element. So if you want to summarize, relative XPath expressions provide a flexible and efficient way to locate elements in dynamic or changing documents based on their relationship to other element in the document. So we have already seen, so we will see how to write this XPath. So we have now directly find out by inspect, but it would be better if you also know how to write this XPath manually. So that we will see in coming session, that how to write these XPaths manually as well, and what is the syntax to write relative XPath. So for now, just understand these points. So absolute XPath always starts with forward slash, single forward slash, and from the starting node, that is root node, HTML node, and it traverses from root node to targeted element via each and every tag coming in that way. Whereas relative XPath gives you, it directly jumps on that element along with some context. For example, here if you see, it is showing that it is directly finding by using attribute ID which is having value of user hyphen name. So they are relative XPath. They does not start with single forward slash and root node. That's why they tend to be shorter than absolute XPath. So if our document, HTML document and web element are very static, then it makes sense to use absolute XPath. But if the environment is dynamic or changing for complex pages, it is not good practice to use absolute XPath. In that case, we have to use relative XPath. They would be more efficient. So these are the main differences between absolute XPath and relative XPath. We can see one more element, or we can see one more example. Let's try to find out. For example, now we have seen for the username field. Now let's try to find out absolute XPath for this login button. How to find out? So I am just taking it, selecting it. On this is the HTML code for login field. Right click on it, copy. First try to find out absolute XPath, that is full XPath. So this is the full XPath. I am just pasting it now. So this is the full XPath for our login button. So it starts with HTML. If you see HTML, inside that body div. So let's go to that. So this is HTML inside that body. After that we have to select div. Inside that again div. So now we have reached till here. After that, so we have reached HTML body div. Now again div, but this time this is a second div. So inside this div there would be a multiple divs. If you see, first one, second one. So which one we have to select? Second one. Inside this second one again there are multiple divs. So which one you have to select? If you see the XPath expression, inside this second div again there is a div 1. So first div we have to select. So in this we have to select first div. After that again there are two divs. If you see the XPath expression, inside this first div there is div, and inside that again there is another div, and then form tag. So I am just going inside this div, again inside this one more div, and then there would be this form tag. So now we have reached till here, form tag, and after that input. So inside this form there would be input tag. If you see this tag, not this one. So if you see the expression form, and let's one more time, let's highlight the login button. So this is the code for login button. So I am just copying it, copy full XPath. I think this is the same only. Yes, this was the same. So inside this form there should be an input tag. So inside this form, if you see, there is this div, and this input, right? So inside this div there is input tag, div and then input tag. So it will highlight our login button. So this is the full expression, absolute XPath expression for this login button. Now for the same login button, if I try to find out relative XPath, let's copy XPath means it will copy relative XPath. So this is the relative XPath. Now let's see how it looks. For the login button, it looks like this. It is shorter and it is directly identifying by the context of the element with ID that is having login hyphen button as a value. So it will find, or it will give relative XPath for this login button. So let's summarize one more time. So absolute XPath is a type of XPath expression that provides the complete path to the element. It starts with forward slash, and from the root node, that is HTML node, it gives the complete path of the element and does not depend on current context or location of the element in the document. So because of this, absolute XPath expression tend to be longer and more specific than relative XPath. For static page where structure of the document is not changing, there we can use this full XPath. However, if the structure of the document changes or the location of the element is not fixed, then absolute XPath expression may not be need to be updated. So this is absolute XPath, and relative XPath is basically expression that provides the path to the element in XML or HTML document relative to current context or location. It does not start with forward slash, as it does not reference to the root node of the document. Instead, it uses the current context or location as the starting point for the path. So for changing or dynamic pages, we can use relative XPath. That would be more beneficial. So relative XPath expressions can be useful in cases where structure of the document is dynamic or changing. So in coming session we will see how to write XPath manually. So thanks for watching this video, guys.